All right, many times when we create a archive using tar, we want to combine that with compression to make the file smaller so that we can transfer it more quickly across the network. So in this case, I have sample tar.tar. Most of the time, many times, people use Gzip for compression. So I'm going to use Gzip, give it the name of the file you want to compress, and now it will become a .gz file, sampletar.tar.gz. If you want to get those files back out of if you want to uncompress those files, gunzip sampletar.tar.gz, and now we're back to having our sample tar file. That is a two-step process of creating the tar file and then zipping it or unzipping the tar file and then extracting it. So at this point, if I wanted to get those things out of the file, I would have to extract it in that way. You can combine those operations by adding an extra switch to the tar command. So I'm going to demonstrate that by creating a archive. I want to do the verbose output. I want to zip it. The Z stands for zip, and F tells it the name of the file I'm going to create. So I'm going to create some stuff to tar.tgz, and I want to include the directory some stuff to tar. So basically what I'm saying is tar create verbose, zip it, put it in this file. So I run that. These things were added to a tar archive and they were compressed. If I want to get things back out of that archive, I can do it in two ways. One, I can do it all at once with tar. I can extract those. Well, first off, let's look at the contents. If you use the T and it's compressed, we need to add the Z in as well, and then the F for the file name. So this says tar, show me the table of contents. It's compressed from this file that showed us the stuff. Right, now if I want to extract it, X for extract, V for verbose, Z for it is zipped, F for the file name. And now if we look, that got my stuff back out. Oh, I actually overwrote that directory with some stuff. So yeah, so that got the contents out of my, yeah, that extracted the contents out of my directory, out of that tar file. So that's how you can use gzip along with tar at the same time. But sometimes you might get different files. So I have some other files up here that we're going to look at. I have sample tar2. It's basically the same sample file I copied over a bunch of times, but I've done some different things with them to demonstrate how we can get things out of our archive, and a couple other points I wanted to make. So in this case, if you notice, I have sample tar2 and sample tar5, which, you know, maybe I can just use tar to extract those, but maybe not. There's a utility in Linux and Unix called file that will tell you what kind of file something is. So with Windows and GUI operating systems, like probably your Mint and Fedora running a GUI, you have these applications that are written, and a file can be associated with those applications based on the file extension. So for example, .doc files will open with Microsoft Word on a Windows system. At the command line doesn't really care necessarily about what your file is named. It cares about what the file is. So in this case, I ran the command file with star, and it told me what kind of files there are. So in this case, sample tar2 is just a tar archive. Sample tar3, tar.gz, that's a gzip compressed data. Down here, sample tar5, oh, that's gzip compressed data. So if you ever don't know what a file is, you can just run the file command, and the system will try to examine that and tell you what the file is. So in this case, we're going to see how we can work with some of these things. Like I said, the CLI doesn't care what the name of the file is. So I know sample2-tar is a tar file, so I can just access it directly in this way, and it will work because the system doesn't care. So I'd say I did a -t to show me the table of contents. That worked fine. Dash 5, tar 5 was bzip compressed, and that worked, which kind of surprised me because I thought I would have to tell it to the Z, but apparently the system's smart enough to do that for me. Sample 3-tar.tar.gz. So basically, this was a file that was tarred and then gzipped. So you can probably either unzip it first and then untar it, or you can probably just get the access to it by adding the Z command. Z. So we add the Z to that. So the point of this is there are a lot of different ways that you can see files named. Here I have sample 2 with no.tar or .gz, sample 5, sample tar 5 with no tar gz, sample tar 3.tar.gz, sample tar 4.tgz. So it doesn't really matter what the file is called. The way you interact with it is based on the contents of the file. A couple other things I want to talk about. Sometimes you might run into BZ2 extensions. That is a bunzip. So we can extract that using the bunzip2, sorry. bzip2 and bunzip2. So we can extract that using the bzip2 or the bunzip2 command. So in this case, I just unzipped that tar6, sample tar6, and if I wanted to zip it again, sample tar6 .tar, and now I have the bz2 file. bz2 file back. One final thing I want to talk about with Gzip specifically, there are different levels of compression. So we can find what I'm looking for. Yeah, dash fast, dash best. Regulate the speed of compression using the specified digit number where -1 or dash fast indicates the fastest compression method, which does less compression, and -9 or dash best indicates the slowest compression method. So if you have a really big file and you have ample processing power, you might want to do the best compression to make the file as small as possible. Or if you would rather spend network time transferring a bigger file or storage space, then you could do a -1 or dash fast to make it so that it does less compression. I created a couple different files with the different compression methods. So if we look, this was the default compression. I ended up with a size of 22,811. This was best compression, which also would have taken the longest time in theory. I ended up with 22,615, so it only made it a little bit smaller. And this was fastest compression, which I ended up with 25,793. So it was like 3,000 bytes larger. In this small size file, it doesn't really seem to make much difference as far as time of compression or size of the file. If we look, our original size file was 122,000 bytes, so we did make the file significantly smaller by compressing it. If we look, the bzip2 actually made it even smaller, so maybe it's has a better compression algorithm. So those were the things I wanted to talk about you should be aware of when combining tar with file compression, how you can get the files into a tar and compressed, and how you can get those files back out of the tar and uncompressed.